A very good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to yet another sessions of our lunchtime webinar organized by the Marketing Institute of Singapore. In fact, we have come to our last last sessions of this series. But don't worry, do join us again tomorrow. In fact, like what we said last week, we're not stopping the webinar. In fact, we will keep you accompanied towards even right after the end of our circuit breaker, right to the end of our lockdown. So we are looking at to the end of May. So do continue to look out for more of our speakers coming on board. But for today, it's our last series. Sorry, our last speaker for this series itself. And this is our 10th, I believe, our 10th sessions for this series. Really, time really flies, and really I want to give a word of thanks to all the previous speakers and to all our attendees here. Please look out, right? We're not stopping. This is not our last session. It's just the last sessions of this series, that's all. Okay? Now, May 1st of May itself was Labor Day, so I hope, I think most of you probably would actually had a great time at home. Okay, and in fact, during that time itself, we saw a lot of reports on our frontliner who are working very hard to actually keep us safe, and those essential workers who tried very hard to deliver our food quickly so that we have our food on our table. I would like to take this opportunity to thank all the health heroes and essential works heroes, those on the frontliner. Our thought and well wishes are with you. I think you're all really great. Okay, you really deserve an award after this. Okay, back to MIS itself. By now, I think you should know the Marketing Institute of Singapore. We've existed for 46 years. In fact, we are part of a not-for-profit organization. We are a NGO itself, and we have a few initiatives running on the pipeline, which I will tell you later. Okay, so do look out more. If you want to find out more about us, you can always log on to our webpage. Otherwise, I believe all of you by now should have a Facebook. So go on to our Facebook, all right? In fact, today's sessions, we are on Facebook Live and we are on YouTube Live too. Help us to populate today's sessions. All this actually are being done it is the objective of MIS to contribute to our community. So please help us populate it in your Facebook, inform your Facebook fans or whoever contacts that you have that we do have a live session so that more people can benefit from our initiative. Okay, so do look out for more to come. Right, help us to promote this. As you can see on the screen right now, there's a like button. Please click on the like button. Okay, and help us to share. Right, next slide, please. MIS itself, right? Our speaker for today is actually Mr. Chris Seow, which will be touching on a very interesting topic: infographics essentials. Okay, there you have it. Okay, don't worry. Chris, in fact, doesn't look that way right now. If you have to look at the pictures itself. But, as in all designers and things like that, they always have an oral, okay, towards art. Likewise, during my conversation with Chris earlier on, I can tell that he's someone that has got a lot of passion for design. So I believe a lot of our folks here will be able to pick up some good skills and technique from him. So I've actually asked Chris, so who do you think are the regular comers to his training course? In fact, Chris is a trainer with MIS, the Marketing Institute of Singapore, under our executive training program. So if you want to find out more, you can always log on to our executive training program. And in fact, Chris sessions will be running, today he's actually running a class, likewise today and tomorrow, which is online. And his class running will be in June, okay? The people that would like to actually will really benefit from his course. In fact, I would say that MarCom, the Marketing Communication Department, Graphic Design Department. In fact, from his course itself, you'll be able to cater to. In fact, his course is able to cater to sales managers who want to put out very, very precise sales report. That is able to actually send across their points. So this is something, in fact, I think for everyone should attend. So likewise, as part of our not-for-profit objective itself and our social mission work, and MIS has actually organized a mass donation. Okay, Now, if you see from the screen itself, this is mass donation drive. Now, it's quite heartening to know that, in fact, not just MIS, in fact, quite a fair bit of our corporate citizens are doing their role in terms of contributing back to the society. MIS, in our case itself, we are actually asking the community to help us in our donation drive. Now, all this mass donated will be sent to the neighboring countries. The very first place that we'll be going to is in Manila, it's in Philippines, where we are working together hand in hand with the Philippine Marketing Association. So it's a very small token that we're asking for. If you can, do log on to our website to find out. A box of masks, we managed to get it at $20. Okay, if you can get better price, do let us know from the supplier itself. And the supplier, who is also a manufacturer, will be helping us to collate all these orders. And once we have reached the amount of about 600 boxes, we will be sending them to the Philippines. All right, so do think about people who are around the region. In Singapore, like what we said, our government are doing a great job. Thanks. All right, providing us the basic necessity in terms of keeping us safe, and that is to provide every one of us with a mask. I couldn't say much for the folks around the region. So this is where you can join us in our donation drive. MIS, we are also a members organization. So in other words, you can join us as our member. All right. So do look out for in the website how you can join us as a member itself, as our associate member. And for those who are not in Singapore, no worries. Don't worry about that. You can always join us as an international associate member at a token fee. And then you will be able to enjoy a lot of values back to you, such as a discount in our executive training course. All right. So today, in today's paper, in fact, in Business Time itself, would like to give a word of thanks to one of the corporate citizens, Sahab, stepping up, giving more support to Singapore migrant workers community, where the telcos is actually sponsoring 500 smartphones to support the real-time patient's health telemonitoring using wearable technologies itself. And through the reports, you can see that Starhub is also beefing up on their Wi-Fi and offering them free channels to view. Now, the migrant workers are an important community that really helps in terms of Singapore nation building. And they should be, and we cannot neglect their well-being. So at this time where we are seeing a lot of them contracted the COVID-19 viruses, hopefully they will ride out of this period and get themselves recovered fast. Okay, and I think our ministries are doing a great job in keeping their welfare. So hopefully they will be able to recover fast enough. And thanks to some of the corporate citizens such as Starhub that has actually did their part in wanting to ensure that the migrant workers are taken care of. All right, without further ado, I think enough of being said. We want to hear from our speakers today. So today is our speakers will be Chris Seow, where he will be touching on infographics essential. Now, Chris is someone that that I can tell it's really passionate about design. Now, he has been a design consultant at Modular, a local design firm, which has a deep passion for graphic designing. This is what I can tell from my very brief conversation with him. Now, over 15 years of graphic design experience, Chris' portfolios include clienteles from Starbucks, Makan Sutra, Tan Tock Seng Hospital, Changi Beach Club, Singapura Finance, and of course, many more. Now, he's also a part-time lecturer with the Singapore Institute of Management, Singapore Poly, Beacon International, and First Media Design School for their diploma and degree programs. He teaches topics relating to communication design, visual communications and design, and media design, brand technique, and studio photography. Chris graduated from the Royal Melbourne Institute of Technology, RMIT Melbourne, with a Master's of Communication Design, Bachelor of Graphic Design, and Associate Diploma of Applied Design. Okay, without further ado, let's welcome Chris into the room. Hi, Chris. Hello, hi, Chris.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone.
Hey, good afternoon, Chris. Chris, Wow, I think the very first thing I was looking at your pictures was like, okay, I'm expecting someone with a big, broad beard and things like that. But and I was saying that, Chris, I own a company in events management, and in my company itself, we do have a design department. And some of those things that you're talking about, we certainly can relate to. All right, and I think today it's an important skill. Like after the lockdown period itself, there are a lot of companies that will be going through transition. So this is perhaps one of the skills that is very essential, especially if we're talking about digital media, and content building itself. So please take it on, right? So I believe all of our attendees are waiting patiently right now, not to hear from me, but from you today. All right, so take on the class.
All right. Thank you, Roger. Thank you. Now, okay. So like I say, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today with the Lunch Talk webinar organized by MIS. And thank you, Roger, for the introductions. So today, the topic that I'm talking about is from data to science. Basically, is the essential for data visualizations, and some might call it as infographics. Now, just a little bit about myself. Okay, I'm trained in graphic design. Today's context, some might call it as comm design or visual comms, a different way, but essentially it's graphic design. I'm sure some of you might be familiar with the term graphic design. Now, I've been working in this industry for the last 2 decades, and my specializing is on branding. And nowadays, I work a lot as a design consultant for clients. At the same time, I also started teaching SIM 10 years ago for a degree course called Bachelor of Communication Design. Now, this course is actually focused on a lot of conceptualized works, and I help students to thinking design and presenting the best effective way. Now, my interest in graphic design started when there was a period of time I worked a lot on packaging design. Now, as you can understand, when you're working on packaging design, sometimes you might look at some area that are relatively small, but at the same time, you need to display a very essential or important information. So that get me thinking that how do I actually make use of such a space and yet presenting the best effective way and aesthetic form, of course. And that's where I start to realize that in terms of producing data, like something that complex and make it minimalized, and especially as an effective way, which is very important, right? That's why I start to think about all this infographic is so important, and that's where I start to build my interest on it. Now, so my topic of data to science, essentially you think about it, when you're creating something like an infographic, so typically you are like telling a story. Now, what do I mean by that? So for example, as a designer, normally what we do is like, sometimes I feel like I'm a director of the firms, right? So for example, when client give us some raw text, images and all this, there's only one way out. What we need to do is to make it and present to the customer in the best form as it is. Now, so for example, I will start thinking about now what kind of, once I got the information, what do I do in terms of organizing them? It's like choosing a typeface, and what kind of graphic do I use? If there's images, how do I treat them? So each of them is almost like has its own characters. So I have this stage, for example, if it's a poster design, then I have to put all this together in the right perspective and present them as a show to the audience. So ultimately, of course, the hope is best to deliver all the information that is supposed to and deliver it to the audience. Now, it will be defeating the purpose if, let's say, for example, form without function or function without form. So the both way are very important. So what do I mean? If you look at this as an example, now, for example, if you look at the top sign, the exclamation marks, that everyone will know. If you see this, you see in such color, you understand what it is. So let's say, for example, if you have a small trick about this, for example, you look at the bottom one at the left, if you inverted them, or whether you change the color or even change the style, somehow the meaning is different. So for our works, right, any little thing that we created is very important. So in this course, one of the aspects I'll be looking at is like studying of sign, all right, which is a very important aspect of infographics, all right. Now, so let me just move on to the objective of the course. We will be developing an ability to simplify complex data into aesthetic form. And at the same time, I'll be also sharing with you some design process, like how do you produce interesting visual content using graphic elements. At the last stage, and in fact was the outcome, we'll be actually addressing, or we'll be doing some exercise using some software platform, and how do you create a poster design, for example. That will be the outcome. So the learning outcome will be key technique to converting complex data into visual representations, adopt different graphic elements to produce interesting visual contents, and experience the design process through the usage of appropriate software to create effective infographics. Now, then who should attend? Basically, for example, if you are, let's say, for example, you are administration staff that you need to prepare some reports, like generate some reports for the company, this is a very beneficial course for you. For example, if you are, say, a teacher, then you need to prepare a teaching slide for your students. Again, like I mentioned, that it's very important. A lot of time, how do you actually present important message in the very simplified form, effective way, in the very confined space, like a slide, all right? It's beneficial for the teacher as well. Let's say, for example, if you're a business owner and you need to prepare a poster, for example, to promote about your business or about your service, it's benefits to you as well. In a nutshell, whoever that has interest in graphic design, and I think this course is for you. Now, so let me just quickly go through some of the things that we'll be talking about in this course. The very first beginning is that we're looking at understanding sign, and we're looking at this term called semiotics. Now, just very briefly, right, I won't go into much of the detail. And as a graphic designer, these days, in fact, for everyone, you know that we'll be exposing to a lot of information these days, and somehow it just get into us, right, connect to us a lot more faster than others. Now, semiotic basically is a term that we trying to understanding how science is being made. If you look at the bottom, I have science, simplified, and simplified. So we'll be looking into how do you actually decode a sign. Now, I always think that in order for you to be able to build a sign, you must be able to deconstruct it at the first place. You must be able to break it down so to understand that what makes the sign effective. If you look at the next screen, so for example, now all these are what we call, typically we call a logo. So basically, a logo is the name that we term it because it's associated to, for example, a brand. But if you're able to break it down, all these are basically nothing but a sign or symbol that make out of something. So with the semiotics, we're able to actually analyze on all these symbols, and we'll be able to break it down so that we understand, okay, what is it made of? Is it because of typography? Is it because of the placement? Is it because of the graphics? Or is it because of the colors, for example? So this is a brief understanding about what is semiotic. Now, another area that we've been talking a lot about for infographics or data visualization is these two terms, readability and legibility. Now, I'm sure sometime when you come across something that, let's say a layout, or let's say a piece of information, like even let's say a slide print or posters, when you first glance at it, you do not know when to start. It's that too much of the information, and sometimes, let's say, we are given a chance to, let's say, hey, handle all this information in the posters, and it seems that everything is so important, and we're just going to chuck everything in. So in the eyes of the viewer, they need to know when to start and where to start. So for example, if you look at these slides, all right, it's a very good example about readability and legibility play a very important part, right? Typically, what we do is we want to control the hierarchy of the layout so that we know which one is a priority that first reach out to your audience, which one is the second, which one is the third. All right, so in this course, we will be looking at this very thoroughly, all right? Another example, so for example, if you look at this on the left and the right, so they are both presenting text, right? Especially the one on the left side by right should make it more appealing instead of having two pictures. But if you look at the one at the right, obviously you look at the way the layout they're being composed, the way how they present the information is so much cleaner and so much directive to you, and it's so organized whereby you know where to fall your eyes on and which information, and there's no cluster per se. There's no clutter per se. All right. So this is how readability and legibility works. So in this section, we'll be looking into all the components and make the layout legible and readable. Now, another bigger aspect is we'll be looking into typographies. Now, simple to say, right? A lot of time when we're giving a job, we tend to think about the design aspect. We think of the graphic, the images, the whatever cartoon they want to draw of nice photo. But a lot of people actually undermine typography, which is so important. All right, because if you are able to choose the right typeface, half the battle is done. All right, sometime next time you probably want to take a look, right? And a layout, when you compare the typeface they use, are they actually being synchronized? All right, so typography is actually very important. So in these sections, right, we'll be looking at like the different anatomy of typeface. It's like for you and me, we have a different part, the arm, the legs, the heads. So type is the same thing. All right, type, they do have a very different so-called feature that they have. So each of them are different. The next time when you choose a typeface from your drop-down menu, once you choose it, maybe you try to zoom in like 100%. Try to have a close examine of all these little details and how they are different, right? Okay, and one of the areas that we'll be talking about for the course is also the design process, which is actually very important part as a designer. A lot of all this great design that you're looking at is all started from this very important initial stage of brainstorming. All right. One of the technique that we're going to discover is called mind map, and in it we have like a several way of doing mind map. So there will be a session that I will invite all of you to into a group, a breakout room, and you involve in this brainstorming session so that we have some ideas to work together. All right. Okay. The last few bits of the slides. We will be doing a lot of case studies about different types of infographic. So eventually, let's say if you are required to produce one, you do not know when to start. These are the 6 examples, right? These are the 6 examples that we'll be looking at. So at least you know, okay, for example, this particular one, maybe I can do a promotionals, or sometimes it might be a combination between 1 and 2. Right, so we are going to do a lot of case study. We're going to break it down how they're being composed, right? And then lastly, we'll be also looking at the style of infographic. So not necessarily every time we think about infographic, it has to be a sophisticating drawing or graphics, right? If you look at this example that I have for you, there are just some of the different style of infographic that you can adapt. Especially if you look at the one in the middle, right? Basically, they are sharing some information. If I have to zoom it to you, you know that all the little text at the bottom is saying something. But at the same time, they just use a very simple color bar to present their informations. Okay, so this will be some of the case study they'll be doing on the course, all right? Now, lastly, even though we are doing this online, doesn't mean that we can't have something physically to do. We'll be have a hands-on exercise, like for example, like I mentioned earlier, that we will do some kind of breakup room brainstorming sessions, all right? So you'll be engaging some brainstorming for part of the exercise, right, before you start execution for your final outcome as infographics. At the same time, we'll be doing something like an online exercise that all do together. It's fun. It's a very fun typography games. There will be a handout. There will be a handout there for you to test what you learn. At the same time, also a little quiz, that online quiz that for you to test your learning. Okay, I believe I'm coming closer to the end. Oh yeah, there's one more thing. I think a lot of people would like to know about the software that will be touching. So for example, it all depends. I understand that some company they might not have the access of using let's say there's a firewall, and they won't be able to use a certain software like Adobe and all these things. So what they have is Microsoft. So I'll be touching on how can you use a PowerPoint to do infographics. If you look at the one at the bottom, it's actually illustrators. I will also be briefly talking about it, how Illustrator can use for doing infographics. On the right, we will be also looking at a cloud system called Canva. So for example, the screen that you're looking at is actually a mobile interface. So I'll be sharing with you how do you use like a Canva platform and produce the infographic as well. Okay, excuse me. All right, I'll come to the last slide of my today's presentations. So our next upcoming program for this data to science actually on 2nd or 3rd. So I hope to see you and joining us in this course. All right, I'll hand it back to our team. Sorry.
Hi, hi. Thanks, Chris, for that very short and yet informative. That actually sets a broad outline on infographics itself. Okay, Chris, perhaps I would like to throw the first questions to you. Now, there are many types of infographics. Earlier on, I saw in your slides itself. If you want, you may bring out that slides again. When to
Okay.
use the different type of infographics and what are the differentiation between them? Can you name us some of the scenarios for the
Okay,
individual
sure.
types?
Give me a minute.
Yeah.
Let me just bring back my slides on this. Are you looking at it, Roger?
Yes.
Okay, so for example, one of the most popular one, let's say promotional. What it says is promotionals. So things like, for example, some like appliances infographic poster that you see. The typical thing is that they'll break down the feature that tell you what is this device or appliances provide as a features. So that kind of infographic is called promotional. Very straightforward, just point to you at this part is what feature, that part is what features. Now, another one is, for example, procedurals. Typically, if you look at the those kind of conveyor belt visual, for example, they tell you about the different stage of the productions, moving on from one part to another. That is called procedurals. All right. So on and so forth. So there are actually sometimes you come across certain infographics that they might combine more than just one. So they're not necessarily just restrained to one. All right. So with this example that the case study you'll be looking at, right? So it gives you a good gauge. The next time when you think about when I want to design something, which one is the most effective tabs for me? Okay.
Okay. Thanks, Chris. Well,
Okay.
if you can do show us more examples or perhaps in your teaching slides
Sure.
of some of them
Yes.
we'll be talking about. Now, we do have a questions from Christine. Now, Christine actually asks, she's not a designer. So does the color wheel templates in the market helps her in the color choice when designing? Okay, so I think I can relate to her questions because sometimes, like me, I'm not a designer, but I do look at design artwork, and from time to time, it's just intuition that it's something it's not right. The layout, the
Right.
color code, it could have been better, or even the shades. The percentage of the size of fonts, the certain layout itself. So, yeah, what would your advice be? Does the color wheel template or the swatch, what do you call it, the color swatch?
Okay.
Does it really matters? Does it really help the Pantone swatch itself? Or the color
Oh,
wheel?
definitely. Okay, you see, if just now earlier in my slides, I addressed about this readability and legibility. So when it comes to design, right, hierarchy is very important. So if you apply these two terms into your design layout, so for instance, sometimes you might come across a layout that they're trying to do too much at the same time. They try to create big bold font. They're trying to give you a color highlight, and it seems that everything is shouting each other's. All right, I want this, I want this, I want this. Look at me, look at me, look at me. And all these color wheels that you have, right, is so convenient that you can just pick and use. But then sometimes too much of the good thing is not a good thing. So think about the simplicity, less is more. You just have to understand, first of all, what is your message is all about. Do I want to use so many colors at the same time? If this particular one that create a highlight using a bold font, be it, I can leave it as black. But at the same time, it's something that's secondary that I think that, okay, is equally important, but perhaps I can do a color bar to highlight it in the reverse white form. So don't use everything that you see from the palette. It's the same like just I addressed when you choose font, there's so many in the menu, but doesn't mean that all of them they're actually different, but you don't have to pick everything. If you just have to choose one or two, like primary and secondary, it's good enough, it's good enough.
Great.
Right.
Perhaps you want to use this time to actually look into your PowerPoints on some of your teaching material to actually point us some of the good design using infographics itself and the differentiation. While I pose the next question to you. All right. Next one will be from someone who is anonymous. How do we achieve a good balance of text and visual when designing slides? Yes, I do see sometimes, a slide, a poster itself that is so cluttered. There's so many information within the slides itself, and their text, their visuals, their logos. While we understand that sometimes, there's certain corporate guidelines or corporate identity that we need to follow when it comes to colors, when it comes to infographics. So what is your advice to someone from a designer point of view and from a end user point of view when they look at the design artwork? What do you think will be a good balance? And can you name me some of the scenarios?
Okay, so again, Roger, is back to what I said earlier, is about simplicity and think about the hierarchy. So for instance, if you are designing this layout, the sole purpose is about producing a product. And definitely when you talk about the product, you want the product picture to be seen clearly. Especially sometimes you have a very nice photography, you want to show the every aspect of the product. So the product will be the main features. So that comes to, let's say the secondary will be the information, the text. Then you know how to so-called play it down. So again, you do not want to fight each other. And let's say if you're addressing on the slide, like teaching slide. So for me, my way of like conducting, let's say my lecture sometime, right? If I know that this picture says a lot, I would rather play so-called focus on the picture. And a lot of time is depending on my dialogue, on my lecture to explain about the pictures. So otherwise, right, you'll be putting too much information on the single slide and the audience do not know when to start, If you have too much of the text, then they might end up just reading the text. So what's the point of you being a presenter there? So it's all coming back to the purpose of the slides. What are you using it for?
Okay, all right. So great. I've got one particular question which has been in my mind. Now, of course, when you do design work, you actually look into the end product. Some of the end product may be ending with being a print, or even on the TV or on your monitors. So print, we know it's using CMYK and TV RGB and things like that. So what would your advice be? What are the colors to avoid, especially when you're designing for prints or for large format printing? When you're designing to transcend between a print and a what do you call it, a monitor through TVs or through. So what would your advice be on that?
Okay, it seems like we are covering a few things here. So for instance, if you talk about print in terms of color-wise, the things that I'll more be careful, for example, if I use it on the body text. Typically, if it's a body text, you probably looking at the quite amount of text there. I will avoid to use color text. I would rather to just take it as black. If you understand the CMYK print, when the firms comes together, let's say, for example, there's a slight misalignment, you might look at shadows and it becomes very hard to read for the body text, especially in the body text. Sometimes the point size could be up to 9 point, 10 point, very small. So I'd rather just leave it black, right, for reading purpose. Now, then talk about print and color. For example, you need to be careful in terms of color combination. Certain color, especially using on the text, it's just best to avoid. For example, if you want to use yellow and orange together, or for example, green and purple together. So it's best to actually avoid such a combination because it will actually, the tone is very close and it's making reading very difficult. Now, when it comes to, let's say, for example, from print to RGB on screen, one thing you got to understand is no matter what kind of color you choose, right? My screen and your screen might not see it the same. It depends on the, the brand or what kind of screen you're looking at, right? So what's important, let's say whenever we comes to like a design guidelines, then let's say we choose a corporate color, we will actually do like a set of rules. We will actually tell the clients, right, break it down to say, okay, what is the color? When it comes to RGB, what is the percentage? Right. So at the end, when you produce that, we just have the photo to guideline. But then something that you cannot avoid is like depends on the viewer screens. So sometimes the color might be varies.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, for
Thank you.
addressing that questions. From one of our attendees, Miss Irene Cole,
Mm-hmm.
what kind of font type is best used for infographics?
Uh, Personally, I wouldn't say there is one particular, but let's say in terms of infographics, especially when I'm treating a lot of data or information, I would like to use something like a sans serif. Uh, like I say, in the course, we'll be actually addressing on typography and look at the different families of the font. So sans serif is those typical fonts that, without the little, what you call that, a tail, that tail is actually called serif. Right, so I would like to use something more clean cut, like a sans serif. So for example, like Arial, I think most of the people will be more familiar with Arial. One of my favorites of the sans serif fonts is Evania. All right, you might have it in your computer as well. So typically I will use that font like this, which is actually one of the most efficient fonts, very clean cut, very readable and legible. And especially they have actually full extension of family. Family meaning to say that you can choose bold, regular, medium, light, italic, so that again you are able to control the hierarchy of the fonts. Yeah.
So it will be in your advice or in your opinion, it will be good to actually use fonts from the same family type. All right, would that be
Yes.
the case?
For me, so for example, if I'm doing something like I earlier I addressed, right, I normally don't like to choose too many typeface on one page, right? So maybe I just have two the most. For example, one of them I use it for the title, for the headers, for the big title on top. But when it comes to information, I would like to use just one, but then that one have the extension of the family whereby I can manipulate the different so-called hierarchies lah, the emphasis or the regular or bold or light. Yeah.
Okay, sure. Let us address the next question then. Can you share the quantitative and spatial directional tool, please? The quantities technique.
Okay, maybe I'll just talk about the quantitative. So typically quantitative is those that you look at numbers. Like say they talk about, for example, especially like now the COVID-19, right? So sometimes you might see those charts that will show you how many new cases, how many recovery. So the telltales of quantitative usually with the numbers. Sometimes it could be numeric reports of population numbers. Sometimes it could be in the form of like a chart show you the percentage. So that's quantitative. Now directional and spatial is typically the good example is like our MRT map. All right, so you go to the MRT map, you look at it, they give you a sense of directions. They might not be in the full, in the proportion, but it gives you a sense of direction and how far they are apart. Those are the directional and spatial
Okay,
infographics.
sure, thanks. So at this stage, I would like to apologize to our our attendees here. I think the extra sound effect is something that we can control, perhaps. But nevertheless, let's get on to our next question. What is your take between using a color infographics versus a singular color infographic? What is the maximum number of colors would you recommend for an ideal design for infographics? That's posted by Raymond.
Okay, so Raymond, that all depends. So for instance, I do not mind sometimes it's a little bit too colorful. So for example, there are those are illustrative infographic, that that they'll picture like a stories that they'll draw houses, they'll draw landscape, they draw everything, right? But at the same time, they support with data. Those are the typical type that you might have a lot of colors. But at the same time, if let's say, to be honest, what you have is more like a text based, right? At the same time, because the client, for example, they're giving us like a lot of texts without any images. So I have to create something like a symbol. And that's why I earlier addressed on the semiotics. So you understand signs. So if you want to create one, so you make sure the meaning is able to convey to your audience. So in that case, if I don't have a lot of images, I might just use, for example, two colors. Maybe there's one main color like black, for example. Then the second color is like for those that I use for highlight. Maybe I can use a red, or whether I use a magenta, for example. And those that I can use it on the highlight, like a symbol, and support with the black text. So two colors, but the second color, right, which is more using for the highlight, it will be at the minimum, right? Otherwise, you'll be too many color, then it's like, again, that which one is more important. I'd rather to have like a full black, that at the same time I have a certain spot that using red as a highlight, magenta as a highlight. Okay.
Great. I think for those who knows me, black is my favorite color. But I always have problem when it comes to printing large format in black. It always turn out to be a bit shady, patchy, and sometimes like that. And really, it all depends on the printer that are actually
Yeah.
doing, and the kind of machines that they use.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Right. From my good friend, Mr. Bavik, our former vice president of the Marketing Institute of Singapore. Hi, Bavik. Good questions. Can you suggest good online resources for good infographic references and benchmarks?
Oh, okay. Okay, good references. I mean, like the platform that you can also look into it, which is very user friendly, right? Is the one I address on is Canva. It's one of the platforms that I use quite often as well, especially for the beginners. Like nowadays all these platforms they will have a template for you to start with. So sometimes it's actually quite good. Actually, if you do not know when to start, right? Those templates give you a certain fundamentals. So for example, the color combination is there. So it's for you to just go in and you tweak a little bit, you replace some graphics, and of course you replace the information. So that is a good start actually.
Okay, Bavik, I hope that answers your questions. Otherwise, keep them coming. Okay, next will be Irene. Irene, okay, sorry. Irene said she did not get the second type of fonts after area. Do you want to reiterate that point?
Avenir, Avenir.
Okay, Avenir, Avenir. Irene, I hope that
Nir, yep.
NIR,
Yep.
Avenir. Okay, Avenir.
And
All right. Dylan, hi, Dylan, a good friend of mine, former assistant secretary of our Marketing Institute of Singapore. Dylan, hi, you posted the questions on do cartoon graphics or does cartoon graphic work better than real photos? What are the choice consideration?
I mean, why not? I mean, if it's just a need to use cartoon, I will use cartoon. In fact, I would say for infographics, I always like to use something more like illustrations, like graphics. So it could be the form of symbols. Cartoon in the sense that if you're talking about the real cartoon characters drawing, why not? If you, let's say you are promoting a certain title of story, or no, then you definitely can use cartoon as well. So sometimes you might even see a combinations, right? So sometimes they might have the combinations of using cartoon characters but symbols. So all eventually depends on where you use it and how you want to actually reach out. If you think that the cartoon character, especially a mascot per se, that is very popular among the audience, if that help, definitely. Yeah.
So it all depends on your audience and the
Yeah, the
message.
purpose. Yeah.
So I believe the clarity must be there, even if you're, considering
Yeah.
using either real photos or cartoon. I personally love cartoons.
Yeah.
Okay, from Melvin posted the question as such: is there a minimum number of colors, inclusive shades, including shades, used for infographics, which to be published in PowerPoint slides?
Okay, so like the same like what I addressed earlier, right? It all depends, but to be honest, if two colors does the job, leave it as two colors. Just a basic color like black and plus the secondary colors of highlight colors. So unless you're saying that, let's say you're a series of a slide, right? You are addressing on the, let's say 5 categories of something. So each category, maybe you want to use one color code to represent that categories. So because this category later on, it might actually extension to the behind pages whereby you want to relate audience back to that particular category with the information, then use back the same colors. So just make sure that you control and standardize the color so that it's not like anytime you just change color and you create like too many of them. Yeah. And about the shades, if you're referring to, let's say, those shadow, drop shadow, one of the things that I always avoid is whenever come to using text, especially if it's body text, no, 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 no to use drop shadows. Like I mentioned earlier, you do not want to create a kind of like overshadowing and make your text harder to read. Sometimes maybe let's say if it's title 1 or 2 was simple enough, I want to create some highlight or tension, maybe I will use drop shadows, right? But otherwise, if you put it big already and it's right on top, there's no need, then don't use it.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. I do agree with you. Sometimes it probably appears to be a design flaw. The shadows itself, sometimes when the designer presented to me on drop shadows on the fonts itself or on the text itself, I thought it may be a case of a design flaw or some error somewhere, printing error or whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks, Chris. Okay, I think that's all from. Okay, that's one from Irene again. Hi, Irene. Irene is asking, is there any website that we can get free icons for infographics? Okay, a lot of
Now,
designers like to.
again, if you look at Canvas, they actually do have a list of free symbols and icons. They are paid one, but there are also a free one. Obviously, sometimes if you want to have a better one, a nicer one, you need to pay small tokens of fees. Otherwise, what they have there is actually quite essential for use for something basic as well. And sometimes for us, because as a designer, sometimes we are able to produce. So you get certain inspiration, you use software like Illustrator to draw it as well. But otherwise, you just look at the canvas on. Anyway, I'm not taking any money from them. I'm not promoting them. It's just that I find that that's one of the easiest platform and it's so user friendly. And you can use it between the laptop or even the phone. You want to create something simple and fun.
Okay, thanks for
Yeah.
offering pointing us to that direction itself, like what is it? Okay, we still have questions coming. I think we'll just take on the last questions. What is your take on infographic for advertising on digital space?
I think nowadays it's getting more and more important, especially like social media is so effective and powerful. And sometimes when you look at, let's say, Instagram with such a small screen, so infographic play a very important part. That's where I was talking about how do you actually control information for the shortest amount of time. You want to capture your audience attentions and let them do the next thing like click call for action, for example. So I think it will be getting more and more important. So again, like I say, this course that we are doing, right, it's not just about producing for social media per se. Anything at all in your day to day, if you need to prepare a simple slides, if you need to prepare some reports, right, even let's say without using any images, think about typography itself, right. You can actually do amazing work by making effective communication set of data. All right. So yeah.
Thanks, Chris. I can think of using typography. I always love the map, the map of the world.
Uh,
Using typography and place it with colors, and it always looks so nice. That's actually one of my favorite prints. What about Chris? Chris, do you have any? Before we let you go, do you have any favorite print? Your best print that you think, throughout your work right now, the design.
You mean that my work?
Yeah, no, your design, it can be your work or it can be from someone else, your favorite one, your personal favorite design work.
There's a lot. Uh, uh, okay, if anything, like my work is quite inspired by the brand called Obey. You heard of Obey before?
Hmm.
So they are very those kind of graffiti artworks, and usually they are like those very kind of what do you call that? Simple graphics, but bold graphics. You can check out the brand Obey, and a lot of my works, because they're also using very simple colors like black, and they maybe use a secondary color like red, right? Very bold graphic, very strong, powerful graphics.
Okay, there you have it. Thanks, Chris. We can all sense your artistic sense. Okay, for today. So I hope all our attendees here today will gain from your webinar sessions today. That being a very short one, they can always pick up in our executive training course, which
Sure.
Chris will be conducting on June, right? So
Yes, June.
second and 3rd of June, Chris, I believe.
Yes, that's right, Roger.
Okay,
Second and third.
2nd and 3rd of June. So do check that out on our website and on our Facebook. Thank you, Chris, for sharing.
Okay, thank you, Roger. Thank you, everyone.
Sure. Don't leave, guys. Don't leave. Got some information from you. Okay. Now, okay. Tomorrow we will have Miss Gil Lee, our speaker for tomorrow webinar session, lunchtime webinar. She'll be talking about the importance of copywriting. Now, I've been hearing a lot about copywriting over the past 1 or 2 weeks, and this is actually one of the essential skill that will be needed post-COVID. In fact, a lot of business transition or business transformation will be as such that it will be online. So therefore, copywriting will be critical for you to create digital materials for your company. So do look out for tomorrow, Ms. Gilly, our trainer from MIS, on our lunchtime webinar. She'll be touching on the topic of the importance of copywriting. Now, remember today's session, it's just one off session at 12 o'clock. As I can see that some of you didn't get it. May, so sorry about that, May. We have to move this half an hour earlier because Chris is actually teaching today in our executive training courses, which he needs to get back to class right now. So tomorrow we will revert back to 12:30. Remember, for tomorrow, please do join us at 12:30, not 12. Okay. Now today is just a one-off. All right, which brings us to our next slide. Why join our executive development program? Now, as you can see, MIS, we have been having our executive programs for the past 20 over years. In fact, for the past 5 years, we're being voted as the #1 executive training provider in Singapore itself. So that speaks volume that we're giving quality education. So there are over 9 major disciplines that you can pick up from us. So over 120 courses. Do look out for our executive course. Now, me myself, I'm a regular attendee to some of the courses conducted by MIS. Now, just in case if you were to ask, how can I enjoy discount? Can I get some discount? Of course you can. Join us as our member. As our member for associate member itself, you are able to enjoy up to 30%. That's quite a fair bit. Plus all the grants that you're able to get from our government right now, which are doing a great job. So find out how you can join us as our associate member by going onto our website or going onto our Facebook. All right, and you can also call the number, which is flashed out there. Okay. Now at this time, we're talking about digital media. Being the next industry booming post COVID itself. This is where you may want to think about taking our advanced diploma in digital marketing. I think it's an essential skills right now. As a marketer, if you're not armed with digital marketing knowledge, I don't think you can call yourself a full-fledged marketer right now, especially in this age. So don't be a digital alien like me. Even I am picking up. I've picked up, in fact, quite a fair bit of digital marketing courses. So this may be one of the courses that you want to consider, a academic course in advanced diploma in digital marketing, which is offered by the Marketing Institute of Singapore. Okay, and of course, our very well-known diploma in sales and marketing, MIS, we are still conducting this course on a part-time basis. So do look out on how you can join us for this. If you have your niece, your nephew, your sons, your daughters, or friends who are not doing anything right now that needs to upgrade, please look out for these two diploma that we're having: diploma in sales and marketing and diploma in business, which can be done on part-time basis. Okay. And it's open for registration right now. So our business school, do look out for it. It's all there, the information, or log on to our website and our Facebook, right? Which will bring me to my next slide, mass donation. Now, I've been touching that again and again and again. Hopefully you can join us. It's just $20 per box, okay? And you're able to benefit 50 people. All this is the initiative of MIS, where we'll be sending all this masks to the underprivileged ASEAN neighbors. Now, remember, you are armed with your mask right now, all right? Some of those uh, global citizens out there may not have the benefit like you, okay? So if you can, do join us, and all this mask, part of it will be donated to the frontliner of these countries. So we are looking at Philippines being the very first country of our reach out, okay? Which will bring me to the next slide. Right, MIS, we are also doing our CSR in terms of engaging the community, especially our foreign workers, our migrant workers itself. They are being locked down in their dormitories right now. Okay, so we are also having our basic conversational English course. In fact, on a day-to-day, we just completed yesterday being the last day of our 10 sessions. We'll be looking into that again. So do look out for more. We will be running our second series of basic conversational English targeting at the migrant workers, which is free, okay, every afternoon, right? So if you want, you can join us, right? If you have someone in the family that needs to learn about basic conversational English, do join us for this, okay? So I guess that will be for all right now. And thanks to all our folks today that's actually attended our webinar today. We'll look out for you for tomorrow. Please help us to actually populate our webinar course, our lunchtime webinar. Now, this is done in such a way that, you know, to keep you company right down to the end of our lockdown period. So let me repeat again, tomorrow at 12:30, not at 12. Tomorrow we revert back to the normal time at 12:30. So do join us, and I hope to see you all there, right? Thanks and have a great day.